Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Paul Dottino and the Moose, Marc Malusis, with you today to talk Giants football and perhaps any other NFL headlines that you might have over the course of the next hour. Our number is 201-939-4513. 201-939-4513. You can also find us on social media if you go to X at #GiantsChat. Also, if you're not watching the program on Giants.com, you're watching it on the app or on YouTube channel, you can always get a message through those channels to us as well. And as always, an archive of this program is available with the entire Giants Podcast Network, the mobile app, and Giants.com/podcast. Mark, good to see you.
Paul, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I got to be honest, though. This snowstorm we're getting, this blizzard they're talking about.
Anywhere from like 3 to 18 inches, depending on where you are in the area.
It's got me a little queasy.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think it's a little bit different. Like when you were a kid, like you couldn't wait for snowstorms. You couldn't wait, and you go out there, make a snowman, have a snowball fight, with your siblings or your friends, whatever it might be. Maybe go sledding. You usually, if it strikes at the right time, you get a day off from school. You get to sleep in. There was nothing like waiting for the school announcements when I was growing up in Rockland County and listening to WRKL and seeing if our school was closed for the day, right? St. Catherine's in Belleville, New York. And then, but when you get older, it represents kind of a pain in the rear end, right? You got to shovel, get the snow blow out, whatever it might be, and it just throws everything into anarchy. So make sure you stock up at the grocery stores. A big storm is headed. We haven't had one of these kind of winters in a long, long time, Paul. So we're getting one of those. It's been cold, and we've gotten a lot of snow.
The line of delineation for me is when I got my driver's license.
Yeah.
Because when you start driving in this stuff, and it wasn't even about me driving in it, it was the other crazies on the road who didn't know how to drive in it.
Well, that's it. And I tell my kids all the time. First off, you got to put your seatbelts on each and every time you get in the car, right? You can only control what you can control. You can't control every driver on the road and whether or not they are paying attention. And that's the other thing is, a lot of people don't know whether it's rain or whether it's snow, right? Either you go way too fast or you go way too slow. There's no in between whatsoever. So I agree with you. It does change when you're on the roads. Make sure if you're on the roads, be safe. And obviously, best thing is to kind of stay home if you can and ride the storm out.
No doubt. Hey, we are coming to you from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. We are going to hear from John Schmeelk, who has actually made his way down to the Shrine Bowl.
Nice.
Hey, come on now. Mobile, Alabama. You think he's got snow down there?
No, I think he's enjoying himself. Maybe get a little southern barbecue, whatever it might be, a little home cooking. That's good. I mean, you got to have a map up here in this studio of where in the world John Schmeelk is, because he's going to be out there. He's got the Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl. He's got everything going on.
Yeah, so anyway, we'll hear from John a bit later on in the program. He'll give us some of the players to watch, as I'm sure a lot of you are going to try to tune into that game coming up this weekend. We also got a couple other little tidbits to talk about. We do know that John Harbaugh has sent out a memo to Giants season ticket holders. He is very, very proud to be here. We could talk about that if you like. Mendoza has, in fact, declared for the draft, which we all expected.
Yeah. How could you not? I mean, undefeated season, expected to go number one overall. You saw his brother enter the transfer portal for the Indiana Hoosiers, who was the backup quarterback for Curt Cignetti. Accomplished everything you can think about accomplishing as a collegiate football player. You'd put it up in the realm. It's statistically not as dominant as Burrow was at LSU.
No.
But to go through the season undefeated, to do something that no Indiana program has ever been able to do, to win a Heisman Trophy, and obviously, if everything goes according to plan, expected to be the number one overall pick, or he is, obviously, the top quarterback on the draft board come the springtime in the NFL draft.
I want to get one thing out of the way about Mendoza, and we really, really haven't talked a ton about draft stuff on this program because there's been so much Giants news, obviously, with the coaching search, and now Harbaugh gets in here. But one thing, Mark, that I always pay attention to, and it's not a surefire piece of evidence either way, positively or negatively. But when you have a quarterback who has a sensational collegiate season, and he's got by far the best offensive line in the universe in front of him, I start to wonder a little bit if he's not an incubator quarterback who did so well because all of his conditions were perfect. and he didn't have to deal with a lot of pressure, and he didn't have to deal with stuff breaking down. And I'm kind of a little bit curious.
That's fair.
You know?
I get it. But, I mean, Paul, like we've seen it here in the NFL. You've seen it, nobody knows it better than you do when you look around the National Football League, how important the offensive line is.
Huge.
You're only going to be as good, especially, and I know the quarterback position has changed in the NFL, dual threat nature, the more mobility when you're looking at it, less of a pure pocket passer, right? That's the case. And
I'm a pocket guy.
No, I know you are.
I do like pocket guys.
But yes, you need everybody, right? So you need all 11 on offense, you need all 11 on defense, you need all three phases of a team to be able to work with each other in order to win a football game. That's what you saw Indiana in that national championship game against Miami. They got contributions from all three phases. But when you look at Mendoza, I'm sure a lot of people will look at that offensive line and say, well, he had a great offensive line in front of him. Yeah, for sure. But tell me the team or tell me the quarterback, regardless of level, whether it be high school, whether it be college, whether it be the National Football League, is going to be able to overcome a bad offensive line, right? We talked about
it's hard.
It's next to impossible, right? And we talked about it for years here when you're talking about the New York Giants overall, if you want to draw it. And the offensive line this year was pretty good, right? And they
sure
did it,
was.
But it was a huge conversation point, Paul, after their 2011 Super Bowl for years, where you had, whether it be Jerry Reese, whether it be Dave Gettleman, whether it be Joe Shane early in his tenure as head coach, as general manager here with the New York Giants, being able to rectify that, because when you think about Giant great teams in the past, it all started up front. It started with the front seven defensively, especially led by the linebackers in the 80s, and obviously it started with a great offensive line. And when you are in the Northeast, you got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to impose your will on opponents. So, yeah, no doubt, Indiana, great offensive line. I don't know if it was necessarily a product or he was a product of that offensive line. He also made some big-time throws. Think about this.
He did.
Going into that Miami game, national championship game, first two games of that college football playoffs, he had 5 incompletions in the first two games. I mean, that is, and they were statistically and utterly dominant. Like, he was ridiculously good. Now, the question is, does his dominance at Indiana or as a college quarterback translate in the National Football League? And we'll find out.
I think the one question that I had from the beginning of the season when I heard that Mark Cuban opened up his bank account.
Yes.
And decided that Indiana's going to have the best offensive line in the world, and I'm going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Once I heard that, I said to myself, okay, let me just make sure that I take Mendoza's performance with a little bit of a grain of salt.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying.
No, I get it, but now's his time. He doesn't. He has
he
nothing.
Put up.
He did, and he's not more at Oregon, who I think has made 11 or he hasn't started the amount of games as a college quarterback that Fernando Mendoza has, right? So he brings a vast amount of experience as well to the NFL level with the amount of starts, and he's won at a big time level, and there was big time pressure on that Indiana team going into that national championship game Monday night as a 7.5, 8.5 point favorite going into the game. The expectation was that they were going to win. It wasn't necessarily dominant like they were against Alabama, but they won the game nonetheless. And Mendoza was really, really good. And that touchdown run that he had, where he took on tacklers and dove into the end zone, was one that they'll be replaying in Indiana for decades to come.
Oh, for sure. So those are some of the topics. Another topic.
Can I give a quick story of Kurt Cignetti?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he was the coach at my alma mater, Elon, in 2018. And he had them ranked for the first time in maybe ever.
Google me.
And he beat James Madison as 40-point underdogs. And the next year they hired him. I'm pretty sure because of that game. And then from there on, just kept moving up and got to Indiana, and now he's national champ.
Well, you remember his brother Frank.
Yes.
Also a long-time coach involved in the National Football League. So that family, obviously, they know what they're doing.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, and listen, he, I think it was open and honest, where he said, if you asked me 10 years ago did I ever think I'd be here doing this at Indiana, probably not. But he's a guy that learned a lot over the course of his time. Obviously, he's talked about the year that he spent with Saban down at Alabama and the amount that he was able to draw from that, and has had tremendous success at each and every level. And there's nobody in college football that has done a better job in this NIL world than what Cignetti has done for the Hoosiers.
Well, it helps to have Mark Cuban behind you.
Well, it does. You got to have money. There's no question. But I mean,
come on, ask Patino at St. John's with the hoops, right?
And now he shouted out the beer that he had after the game, and now he's got beer for life as well.
Go.
I mean,
from
that play from that brewery in Bloomington.
Oh, my. All right.
Which is great.
One other item, and it's a small item, but it could lead to something a whole lot bigger. You know, John Harbaugh, now being the coach of the Giants, was with the Ravens for 18 years, and he got to know an awful lot of players in his own division, if not just on his roster. DeMarvin, I believe it's Leal, or it could be Leal. I'm not sure, Mark. But from the Pittsburgh Steelers, he spent 4 years as a defensive lineman with the Steelers, formerly out of Texas A&M, where he was an All-American in his last season and had 8 sacks. He was regarded as a guy who would be versatile on the line. Well, with the Steelers, he had a sprained ankle issue, he had a neck surgery, and it just never worked out. They moved him around from 3 technique to defensive end to outside linebacker, and for whatever reason, he came free. The Giants signed him to a reserve futures contract yesterday. Now, why do I mention that? Well, it's because he becomes the first signing of the Jim Harbaugh era with the Giants. And I do think it's interesting that he was regarded as a unfinished prospect when he came out of Texas A&M, who had a lot of talent, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. But Harbaugh obviously knows him because he was with the Steelers for 4 years. And in fact, for 2 of those years, he did play a healthy amount of games in a rotation. So we'll see how much of that Harbaugh influence we see on some of these signings.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good gamble when you look at it, everything that he ran through, Paul, in terms of what he was collegiately, and he was successful being an All-American his final year of college football, and how he has not developed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's a good gamble here for the New York Giants. And you do know this, you know, being the first signing of the John Harbaugh era and the Harbaugh-Shane relationship moving forward, well, you have to believe that he loves football, because John made that perfectly clear earlier in the week that if you don't love football, you're not going to love being a New York Giant. So he better live, eat, and breathe, you know, NFL football and love the game, because that's really what it's going to be all about. And, we'll see exactly what that develops into. But certainly a young man that has showed you promise collegiately, showed initial success in the National Football League, but it's kind of teetered off here over the last couple of years, and maybe under the guidance and guise of this coaching staff, he can find that promising potential once again.
Yeah, whoever those staff members may be. Yeah. We still don't know who the coordinators are or the assistants.
You got time.
But for sure. And look, the Giants needed some help on the defensive line. So if nothing else, he adds to the numbers in the room. And the more numbers you have, the more candidates you have that might be able to help you. 201-939-4513 is our number. James in Georgia, you're first on the program. Hello.
Hey,
James.
What's going on, guys?
There you are.
What's up, James?
Nothing much. So I appreciate y'all coming to me. I just had a couple things, now that we're trying to round out our coaching search, and, John Harbaugh is kind of trying to bring his own little flavor to the team. I want to say first, I'm not going to say for everybody's perspective, but from my perspective, shaking up the team can be good sometimes. And I want to know exactly, if y'all can answer this, what some of the reduced roles are going to be, or change roles. I didn't really get a chance to listen to yesterday's show all the way. But I fear that, when you to put Ronnie Barnes in the back seat, you don't want to reduce Dr. Frankenstein's role and then bring in Dr. Phil. You know what I mean?
James, excuse me. I think the one thing that you have to keep in mind is that all of this is a work in progress. And, from what I understand, and Moose, maybe you know differently, but from what I understand, Ronnie is still here, and he is still who he is, but maybe some of the on-field things that he has done in the past may be reduced a bit. And he's been doing this forever. In fact, he's been here longer than I have, okay? So
right.
if he wants to cut back a little bit on what he's doing, or if the Giants want to add to the medical staff, it's their prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead, James.
Oh, no, I was, just going to bring up my anecdote. As far as him being one of the best in the business, I refer to him as Dr. Frankenstein with the patchwork he's been able to do over the years for the Giants. And, you can't blame the doctor for getting the guys back out there that the coaches break. You actually got to applaud them for that, and they have. So I don't want. I just
James,
don't want to bring in another consolation guy.
No, Ron, and James, thanks a lot for the call. Listen, Ronnie Barnes, his impact on this organization is unquestioned. For the amount of years that he spent here, for the respect that he has from ownership and everybody within the building. According to reports yesterday, is that he's going to still maintain that his role is, but they're going to be bringing in reportedly, a new head trainer that's going to work underneath him or in correlation with him as well. So Ronnie his presence is still going to be here within the organization. His impact is no doubt. The respect that he has from every single individual that works in the building that Paul and I are doing the show from is unquestioned. So I would not be concerned or all that worried about that. And he has been an integral part of this organization for decades.
He's in the Ring of Honor. Do we need to say anything else?
No. I mean, listen, he is a legendary. Like when you think about there are a lot of players. Obviously, you think about ownership. When you think about outside of those that are on the field, when you think about from an organizational perspective, there's no doubt the name Ronnie Barnes has earned the respect amongst Giant fans over the years.
All right, appreciate the phone call, James. We're going to head down to John Schmeelk, who is at the Shrine Bowl. Hello, John. Aren't you sad for us that we got a snow and a blizzard forecast coming in here the next couple of days?
It's not that much different down here, guys, because while we're not going to get a blizzard, we're apparently going to get a ton of rain, and then it's going to get really cold, and it's supposed to, it freeze over. So there is some concern from the local residents down here based on the fact that Dom, who's driving us from the store back to the hotel right now, we went to a local grocery store last night, just to buy some stuff in case he got trapped in the hotel. And that place was probably about 3/4 of the way empty. So people are trying to go to the stores, try to buy stuff up. We're a little worried about getting out of here Monday morning to get from Frisco to Mobile.
That's right.
If this thing does freeze over, because down here nobody knows about salt.
That's
nobody
true.
Knows about flour. They have no idea what
when
they're
they had
doing.
the Super Bowl in Dallas and the
Don't
the
they
ice
know
storm.
about pickle brine? Putting the pickle juice on the road, that helps even better than salt.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's not true.
It is true.
How many jars of pickles do you need in order to desalt the road?
You need a lot.
I mean, that is a lot of pickle brine. Where'd you grow up, Paul?
It's good stuff, man. In Western New Jersey, they do it all the time.
I've never heard of that in my life.
It's
really?
awesome.
Is that
true? It is awesome.
I've heard of drinking pickle juice if you're dehydrated. I've never heard that they can desalt the roads.
That stuff is strong.
Look at that.
Man.
You learn something new every day.
Imagine what it does to your insides.
Paul just has a basement full of pickle jars.
Oh, my goodness.
It's Giants memorabilia and pickle jars.
There you go.
That's it.
Hey, John, you're right. I misplaced you. You're in Texas for the Shrine. Then you're going to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So the first day of Shrine practice was today. We get 3 days of Shrine practice today, Saturday and Sunday, weather permitting. And then we head off to Mobile, and we got practice there next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
All right, so real quick, before you get to a couple of guys you've been watching or people who have at least attracted a lot of attention down there, what are you going to be showing us on the website over the course of the next couple of days? You're going to be cutting up videos, you're going to be doing interviews, you're going to be writing some notebooks?
Yes, all of that. We're going to have basically a minute video recap report that's going to be going up every day. I'm going to have a written recap going up every day, and I'm going to have obviously calling into you guys. And then, we're going to be keeping track of all this. I'm going to have a bunch of podcast interviews going up on the Giants Huddle with a lot of the players down here and in Mobile. So that'll be popping up on all the Giant platforms over the next week.
John, when you look at the players that are down there at the Shrine game, who are you going to be keeping an eye on? Who should Giant fans be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, absolutely, Moose. And look, this is I'm not going to say it's kind of like number 2 in the All-Star game list, but, Senior Bowl is going to have a bunch of first-round picks, maybe even some top 10 picks, depending on who sticks and who doesn't. We've heard some rumors of some guys pulling out, like maybe Ruben Dean and David Daly, which would be disappointing. We'll see if that ends up happening or not. But, if you can get a handful of guys that go on day 2 out of the Shrine Bowl, I think that would be a success for them. The guys I would keep an eye on, there are some decent guys up front. This is a very strong class on the defensive line. So whenever that happens, guys get pushed down, you can get some really good players at Shrine, right? So I think probably the guy that could be the highest drafted player here is Darrell Jackson Jr. out of Florida State. Weighed in at 6'5", 328. But he carries the weight well. You know, you see guys that are 328 and they look like they're 340. You see some guys that are 328, they look like they're 310. He's one of the guys that looks like he's 310, even though he weighed in at 328. And he had a couple one-on-one reps today. We kind of just took the offensive lineman and just marched him into the backfield. If you want like a one-tech or a nose tackle, he's one of the better guys in the draft class that can play that. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a third-round pick or maybe even a late second-round pick when all is said and done. A couple of the guys up front, DeMonte Capehart from Clemson, also an interior guy, 6'4", 314. He's one of these guys that really looks the part, but he has never really played up to his measurements, to be totally honest with you. So we got to see if he can do that. A couple offensive linemen I'll throw out there to you. Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame. He played right tackle and left tackle today. A really good athlete, long, 6'5". He's a little bit tight in the hips, but he's a guy that I think, you know, could be an early day 3 pick that maybe could develop into a swing tackle in the NFL. And then 2 other guys just on the defensive line that really jumped out at me in practice today. Malachi Lawrence, edge rusher out of University of Central Florida, 6'4", 247, a lot of pop. Gets off the line, bursty, kind of one of those long, linear, undersized edge guys that Paul Dottino just loves so much. And then James Thompson out of Illinois, 6'5", 301. He might have been the best defensive lineman in practice today. Just really quick, first step, long, uses his arms all, a couple of swim moves. Kind of one of those one-technique, penetrating defensive tackle type guys. So, and then just to make Paul to try to pronounce the name later in the draft process, Wake Forest right tackle Fa'ili Fa'amo, one of the Samoan guys, 6'5", 311. He had a couple reps against Lawrence today where he kind of just tossed him to the ground. Really big physical guy. So those are kind of where the strength of the class is up front. And then a guy both of you guys should know the name of, linebacker of LSU, Harold Perkins. Yeah. He probably came out last year, tore his ACL. Yeah. He's here, and he's doing everything. He's playing inside linebacker. He's playing outside linebacker. He's an edge guy, too. So he weighed in at only 220 pounds, which for a linebacker, as you guys know, 6', 220, is just not very big. But he's someone that I know has all the athletic ability you could want. You just got to find a place for him.
John, any local guys from the area, Rutgers, Columbia, UConn, and anybody of local interest that maybe some of the folks might know of?
Good question, Paul. I'm looking at my roster right now. I don't think there's any Rutgers players here, actually. I did not notice any Rutgers helmets today. So not really. I don't see any Ivy League guys either. I know it's not a local team, but a lot of people treat it like it is. Notre Dame tight end Eli Raridan, 6'5", 244, nice two-way tight end. You want a guy that can get in line and block. He's someone that I know people are going to like. Eli Heidenreich out of Navy, fun player. He's 5'11", 197. He's kind of like half running back, half slot wide receiver. He's got some pop. He could be a little bit fun. Another tight end. Again, it's a really good tight end class, so guys will get pushed down to games like this. Jack Endries out of Texas. He could be a day 2 pick, too. Another guy. But look, and that's the thing. There's not a lot of local guys, and it's even harder, guys, to find small school players to go to these games now. Because, Paul, you know this covering the NEC. Moose, you know this covering college football as you have doing Rutgers. You know, all these big programs just pluck all these FCS players, all these Division II players, and they don't stay at the small schools, right? So you don't even have that many small school guys here, you know, which you usually get because they've all been plucked by the Power 5 teams.
When you look at it, John, in terms of how important is this for guys, for college players to cut through, whether it be Shrine, whether it be Senior Bowl, ahead of what you're going to see from the scouting combine and obviously when you're looking at individual pro days?
Yeah, look, I think these all-star games are the most valuable parts of the draft process for any of these players. This is the combine. You do drills, you get measured, you do interviews, great. This is really the only part of the process where you're doing real football things against live opponents, right? So if a guy comes out here, he flashes, he's going, you know, especially if he's, let's say, a couple Toledo players here, for example, you're going against a guy from, Big Ten, SEC, and you flash, that can really, I think, draw the attention of scouts more than anything you can do at a pro day, anything that you can do at the combine, because you got pads on, you got helmets on, you're doing real football drills like you would at an NFL practice. So this to me is, and especially the Senior Bowl when we get there, and you get a lot of really top prospects there. You're going to have a lot of, opportunities for these guys to really make their mark and, make scouts maybe give them another look if their grade coming out of the season isn't as high as it should be.
John, I think in a way, and I don't want to put too much emphasis on this, but over the last few years, the Giants have had a lot of their coaches go down to these all-star games and be part of the coaching staffs for the games. And you and I have talked, right? That's the point I was going to make. We've said that was beneficial, and that may have actually helped them over the last 2 draft classes. It may have.
Right.
How much? I can't quantify it. But this year, without a coaching staff in place, they don't have anybody working with these kids. I just wonder how much they're missing out on.
Yeah, it's different. And, look, would you rather have a coach in a meeting room with some of these guys? I think, didn't the Giants have a coach in the room with Daniel Bellinger 4 years ago, Paul?
Yes, they did. I can't remember who it was, but they did. Yeah.
So, you would love to have a guy down there, but I think you'll trade missing that opportunity to have John Harbaugh as your new coach, right?
I think so.
No question. John, be safe with the ice store. I just have one just away from the Shrine game for a second. So when you're going to the grocery store and you're thinking about the fact that you might be hunkered down in the hotel down there in Texas, what is the John Schmeelk go-to snack?
Oh, that's a good question. All right, so we actually had a long conversation about this at the grocery store. So I tried to mix it up, salty, sweet, and savory. So I got a little beef jerky for the savory.
Okay. Nice.
Can't go wrong. I got a little popcorn for the salty.
Nice.
A little
That's
skin
good.
pop. Can't go wrong. And then, I'm not going to lie, I got some cookies.
Oh, very nice.
Chip. I did a little Oreo. Can't go wrong. A little candy bar action.
There you
got
go.
A little Coke Zero for the caffeine. Rocking and rolling.
And was Dom on board with these selections?
Very healthy.
They're very, very clean. You're eating very clean down there in Texas, John.
Very clean. Beef jerky, Coca-Cola, and popcorn. Let's do it, baby.
All right, John. I would say stay warm, but we're going to have a bigger problem doing that than you will. So enjoy yourself down there. We'll talk to you again sometime early next week, depending upon if we can get to the facility.
Yes. Hopefully Tuesday we will be talking again, boys.
Be good, John.
See you, John.
Thanks.
All right, guys. Be safe.
John Schmeelk down at the Shrine Bowl where the players have just checked in, done some of their particulars with the medical staff, the weigh-ins, the measurements, all that fun stuff that they need to get done. And we will see if there is anybody who winds up being taken by the Giants in the Shrine game. You'll be surprised sometimes you get some really good blue chippers out of this game, even though it's not regarded as the number one college all-star game.
No, but the draft processes, we're seeing coaching changes across the National Football League. The draft processes are getting going here in full force. And for all these young men that are going to be a part of this NFL draft, they're hoping for dreams to come true and trying to cut themselves and set themselves apart, whether they're a first-day pick, second-day pick, or third-day pick, and the ability to go out there and make it to the National Football League on really the best stage, right? And to be able to prove yourself on the best stage. So good luck to each and every one of those men that and young men that are participating down there in Texas or then in Mobile, Alabama, to see if they can make their NFL dreams come true.
Back to the phones. Roberto in Florida. You're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up, Roberto?
Listen, last time I was on, I got a little bit carried away with Paul Wardrobe in the interviews, and I talked a little bit too much about his suit.
It's okay.
I know.
Wait, catch me up. What was wrong with Paul's suit? Roberto, what was...
I knew, somehow deep inside, I knew we were going to get Harbaugh. But listen, one of the things I want to talk about, we play some of the teams that were in the wild card and some of the teams that are going to be playing this weekend, like Denver, the Patriots. Look, we played Chicago. Some of those teams we could have beat. But what happened? I honestly believe it had nothing to do with the players. Listen, we got the pieces, right? But no disrespect to anyone. But we got the same pieces. I don't think we're going to be outcoached. Bottom line. We're not going to be outcoached in certain situations that we were. I don't think we're going to have those defensive meltdowns like we have with Denver. I don't see that coming. I see it. Call me crazy.
Well, Roberto, if I may, and I will not
for a long time.
I will not call you crazy.
Coming from a wild card, winning a Super Bowl, but I see playoffs. Right? That's me.
Roberto, listen. I appreciate the optimism, but they don't have all the pieces yet. Okay, just hiring this great head coach, even if he has a great staff, this roster still needs some additions. It is not a finished product, and I know Mark will agree with me. They are not ready to go and make the playoffs today.
No, they're not. And Roberto, thanks a lot for the call. I think you look at it, though, there is the excitement, Paul.
Sure.
And, I think the Giant fan is engaged. I think the Giant fan has, there's been a spark that has been lit to the fan base with the hiring of John Harbaugh. That what Roberto talked about, the fact of that you have now a head coach, and you see this, Paul, each and every week in the National Football League, coaching matters in the NFL. Mm-hmm. It does, right? And that Giant fans feel like their head coach and this coaching staff now moving forward is going to put this organization, this team on the field, whoever makes up the 53, each and every week, that are going to put them in a position to win. And that matters, right? I mean, it just does. And I can understand the excitement from Roberto. So, yes, there's been improvements, but John Harbaugh mentioned it, when he got introduced earlier this week, Paul, is that, he's here to win. John Harbaugh wants to win, all right? He did a lot of winning down there in Baltimore. He's going to define what Giant football is here moving forward. And, at 63, he's not playing the long game. He's excited about the quarterback. And when you have the coach and the quarterback in place, you see numerous examples. Look at Vrabel and May up in New England. They're in Denver this Sunday competing to try and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl as AFC champion. And they're a favorite in the game, given the fact that Jarrett Stidham's the starter this week for the Denver Broncos. It's such in the National Football League, the parity, everything can change. You have a right coach, you have the quarterback, you have a good offseason, good free agency, good NFL draft. Everything can change in 1 year. Look at the Washington Commanders. A year ago, they were in the NFC Championship game. This year, they went completely right. And they were the oldest team in the NFL. Their general manager, Adam Peters, went out there, invested in Laramie Tunsil along the offensive line, brought in Deebo Samuel. Everything else went wrong, and they didn't have health at the most important position with Jaden Daniels at quarterback. So everything could change, but the Giant fan is excited because you know what? They believe in the coach that has been brought into the building.
Speaking of the coach, John Harbaugh has sent out a letter to Giant season ticket holders.
I love.
And you folks who are on the internet, I know some of you have already probably posted it, and I appreciate that. He says here, and I want to just read one excerpt because it goes right to what you said a moment ago.
Yeah.
My vision is simple. We will develop a disciplined, resilient, and prepared team, one that plays with passion, physicality, and an unrelenting love for the game. Right then and there, he is putting down a hammer and telling you what it is he expects from his guys. And trust me, this is not the kind of guy who's going to dilly-dally or be soft and fuzzy around the edges. When he says, that's what I want, he's going to pound his fist on the table and say, you better give it to me.
Oh, there's no doubt. First, and this is about winning games, right? But, I mean, Paul, it is really refreshing to watch a guy in John Harbaugh. Number one, the way that he handled the questions when he got introduced as Giant head coach. When you look at this email that he sent out to Giant season ticket holders, defining what this team is going to be moving forward. We've both lived in this area our entire lives, right? And been, whether it be old Giant Stadium or whether it be new MetLife, right? And you figured out during the good days of what defined what Giant football was all about, right? You knew what they were going to be, regardless, whether it was Parcells, whether it was Dan Reeves, whether it was Tom Coughlin, whether now what it's going to. And I think John Harbaugh has leaned into the history of this organization, the letter, and he has hit everything out of the park early in his tenure as Giant head coach, from the introductory presser to this email that he's sending out to Giants season ticket holders, sensing the excitement of his hiring here with the New York Giants and leaning into it and basically telling you, we're going to put a product on the field that this proud fan base deserves. And the losing is going to come to an end. And listen, Rome wasn't built in a day. We got to see what this staff does look like moving forward. You mentioned it. We both mentioned it. This roster needs to go out there and improve. But you have a guy that I think is, even though it ended the way it ended down in Baltimore, is rejuvenated by the challenge of being the head coach of the New York Football Giants.
You know what I think is an interesting number? When you look at his 18 years as head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, he made the playoffs 12 times.
Yeah.
And only once in 18 years, we talk about Mike Tomlin all the time, not having a losing season. Only once did John Harbaugh's teams in 18 years win less than 8 games. Once.
Take it. I mean, that's amazing when you think about, the consistency and the ability to go out there. And here's the other aspect of it as well. He won with 2 different quarterbacks stylistically.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
He won with Joe Flacco, who's a pure pocket passer, and then he won with the multi-dimensional MVP, multiple MVP in Lamar Jackson, right? Did he win the Super Bowl with Lamar? He did not. But he didn't miss the kick. He wasn't Tyler Loop on the field. He did not drop the pass like Andrews did last year in Chili Buffalo. He didn't fumble like Zay Flowers did at home against Kansas City. Now, you can get into some game planning, and we can look at it, and you're not going to win every single one of those games, but he put his teams in the best possible position to win. Now, you want to say that Baltimore should have done more the past couple years, where last year they entered the playoffs, and a lot of people believe they were the most talented team, not just in the AFC and the NFL. That's fine. Listen, he did a lot of winning. He defined what Baltimore Raven football was for 18 years, and I think that's what he's going to do and has started to do here with the New York Giants.
Now, of course, tip of the cap to Eric DeCosta and Ozzie Newsome before him.
Yeah.
Because that's been a great organization, and they have done a marvelous job in filling out the roster. But look, the way the ball bounces in the NFL today, and you talked earlier about the parity and the margin of error and how things can change so quickly, for him to be that consistent over the course of 18 years, and his one down season, they won 5 games.
Right.
That was it. That was like his low point. That tells you about the impact he can have on a roster.
Well, and I mean, you want to bring up a latest example? We don't have to go back. I mean, look at the Cooks, catch, no catch, interception, no interception against the Denver Broncos, right? If that's defined as a catch, the Buffalo Bills are winning that football game. Yeah. It's defined as an interception, right? On the field, called an interception. Broncos end up moving on. The Buffalo Bills end up changing their head coach, move on from Sean McDermott. The great change up in Buffalo now after that, after what transpired on the field. Just playing home to your point, Paul, is winning is difficult in the NFL. And even if you have all your ducks in a row, sometimes the ball doesn't necessarily bounce your way in order for you to get the result that maybe necessarily you deserved or you earned for that given year. So you need a little bit of luck when it comes to winning, but also you want to put your team in the best possible position to win.
Well, even by the same token, how many of those teams may have even overachieved by a couple of wins or two because Harbaugh was on the sidelines?
Oh, and that's it. And that's really, you want to put your head to the pillow, whether it be a Wednesday night going into a Thursday game, whether it be a Saturday night going into a Sunday game, Sunday night going into a Monday night game. If you're a Giant fan, you put your head to the pillow thinking that my head coach, the coach of the team that I love, right, that I'm wearing their gear and their merch, and I'm showing up and being at MetLife Stadium, I have season tickets, the head coach and that staff gives this team the best possible position to win, puts them in the position to win each and every week. And John talked about that when he got introduced as Giant head coach, is that, our goal is to win each and every game. You're not going to win each and every game, but that's the goal. And that's what you want to see. And that's what good coaches go out there and do, regardless of how it looks, because one week might look completely different than the next, right?
No doubt.
It just doesn't stylistically, right? You might be able to take advantage of a team's secondary, be able to throw the ball, but finding a way to win each and every week. And I think Giant fans are excited that they have a head coach now that has showed you the success, and they brought in a guy that's going to change the culture within the building and hold the players accountable about what Giant football is going to be here moving forward.
Now, we know of your strong connection to the Rutgers program. Do you want to read the promo?
Oh, sure. Why not? Yes. Special Olympics New Jersey's annual Snow Bowl is headed to Rutgers SHI Stadium in 2026. The annual flag football tournament will be on the field of Rutgers SHI Stadium from March 6th through the 8th, 2026. The 6-on-6 tournament will feature competitive, recreational, and co-ed divisions, and all proceeds benefit thousands of Special Olympics New Jersey athletes across the Garden State. Register your team today at njsnowbowl.org. That's njsnowbowl.org.
See?
There you go.
I knew you would ace that.
There you go. I've done a couple reads over the course of my career.
We go to Coach Marvin in Delaware. He's on line 2. Hello, Coach. How are you?
I'm doing good, Paul. How you doing?
It's a beautiful day today. I can't tell you about the next couple of days.
Yeah, I know.
Go ahead.
Moose, I talked to Moose last week, and I'd like to welcome him and just let him know I enjoy listening to you talk, Moose. You bring joy to the game, and I see the way you see the game. And I'm glad you're added to the team.
I appreciate that, Coach.
Good stuff.
Thank you.
You guys, I know I have a short time. I'd like to have 30 seconds at the end, though. You were talking about Fernando Mendoza, about his skill set. I wasn't too sure about him until I saw him in this playoff. And the guy from the shoulders up is unbelievable. And I don't know how many college players I ever seen can throw the back shoulder fade. And I haven't seen many, but he does it really well.
That he does.
And he sees the game completely. Amazing player. Moose talked about him having 8. He had 5 incompletion. He had 8 touchdown passes.
I know. Crazy.
He had more touchdown passes than he had incompletions.
Unbelievable.
So, amazing games he played. Also, real quick, I'm not saying to draft him, but who caught my attention is Ruben Bain. Unbelievable player. Mm-hmm. I love seeing him play. The thing I wanted to talk about was they talk about being out-coached. Dabo is a really good coach, and I think he's going to prove that over the next few years when he gets his opportunity to coach. My problem I had, it wasn't a problem, but what I thought could hurt him was Dabo was a friendly, really good friendly coach. And I felt, and I said this a few months ago, that I felt that you can't be friends with your players. You have to be their coach. It's like being friends with my kids. I'm not their friend. I'm their father. And I think certain titles, you can't be friends, not in a friend manner. You can be a person that care about your players, you love your players, all those things that a friend would be, but you're not their friend. And I think that's what Harbaugh is doing right now. I think he's bringing in fear and respect. And there's a thin line between two of those two. Mm-hmm. And that's the way I would approach the game. I'm not those kids' parents. I'm not their father. I'm not their uncle. I'm not their friend. So I had to bring that fear and then that respect that comes with that. Because there's a thin line there when a person, they respect you, that they don't want to do you wrong, and they fear you because they don't want to do you wrong. So I think that's what Harbaugh is setting the standard to that now with the house cleaning he's doing. And those players, they better come ready to play because this guy's not playing around.
Coach Marvin, I know you have so many years of experience in the league, so I think it's a relevant question to ask you. You know, we've talked about a lot of coaches, and Tom Coughlin had the famous Leadership Council.
Yeah.
As we know.
Yeah, Mark. And that was an adjustment.
Okay, it really was.
Made, yeah.
Do you believe that it is critical or maybe even mandatory these days because of how much older some coaches are compared to guys in the locker room, that they establish a so-called Leadership Council that can do some of the policing for the coach within the locker room so that he doesn't always have to be the bad guy?
Yes, I agree with that, and it doesn't have to be in the manner that you're saying it, because I did the same thing, because there's certain players on my team that I needed to represent me when I wasn't around. Mm-hmm. Because I wasn't with these kids all the time. So there was kids that those kids would follow because there's always a top dog in the locker room. And I'm talking about the coach. I'm talking about you have your captains. A lot of times I have about 4 to 5 captains on that team. But there was one of those 5 that was the top dog that everybody's going to listen to what he has to say. So it's almost the same thing you're saying, Paul. So he's giving my message, those captains are giving my message, and everybody else falls into play. It's almost like the military. You know, you have your captain, you have your lieutenants, you have your first sergeant, who was top, and nobody messed with top. Then you have your platoon sergeant, and then you have your squad leaders. And all of those people have to keep the rest of us in line. So it's almost what you're saying, Paul, is how you keep your organization organized and keep everybody on the same page. So that's why it's good to have that. And I agree with you. It should be mandatory.
Coach, you said you needed 30 seconds for something else. What was the other item?
Just last night I was on a podcast. I was invited to a podcast. I'd like to thank them for inviting me. The Rev, Dr. Paxton Price, unbelievable man.
Nice.
His co-host is Ryan Stewart. Now, what's unique about this, the reason I got put on here real quick, the end of this, is Rev is one of the biggest Cowboy fans. You know how they are. He's just like all of them. Ryan is an Eagles fan, and he loves the Eagles. They brought me in because he met me, and I had Giant gear on, met him talk. He invited me in. It's almost the NFC East podcast that I was on last night. Unbelievable.
Coach, I know you held your own.
You guys, hey, y'all take care. Stay safe.
You too, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. I want to mention something to you, Mark, because it comes off of Coach Marvin's point. I talked to Vinny Serrato the other day.
Yeah.
Longtime 49ers and Redskins executive who won a Super Bowl with the 49ers. All right, he's a pro personnel director. In fact, full personnel director.
I think his son, just on a side note, was like a second-round pick in the NHL, big-time hockey player. Yeah.
So Vinny's been doing radio down in Baltimore for several years and has been a friend of John Harbaugh's for a long, long time. And I asked Vinny about the whole CEO concept of John Harbaugh. And I also asked Andrew Adams, who played for the Giants and also played for Harbaugh with the Ravens in his last season, about this whole CEO concept. And so is Harbaugh more of a CEO coach, which we all have talked about,
right,
or is he a little more of a player's coach than what we have been saying? And here's the thing that I got out of it. Vinny said, as far as the players are concerned, if you love football, as we heard from Harbaugh, there's no problem. It's fine because you are on the same path with him and he's going to love that player and they're going to be talking the same language and you don't have to worry about him being a little put offish or a little bit of, removed, because if you're on that same emotional feel, it's unbreakable. What Andrew Adams said to me was really interesting. He goes, I don't know if you couldn't call him a CEO coach. And I said, well, why? He said, because John Harbaugh will come into the position rooms and will sit down with the players, next to the players, as they're having their meetings.
Love it.
He said, CEO head coaches don't do that. John Harbaugh does. So he said, he's kind of a player's coach, but I understand, because he delegates to the coordinators, that you'd want to call him a CEO coach, but he's a little more of a player's coach than people think.
Well, I think there's got to be, a combination thereof, right? When, regardless of sport, where you're asking people to lean into your vision. I don't think there's any doubt, like the resume that John Harbaugh has built, the respect that he'll have in that room is unquestioned based on and the success that he's already had as a member of the Baltimore Ravens, right? And Paul, like we've talked to players over the years, they want to know and they'll follow a coach as long as they believe that coach has the answers, right? Mm-hmm. The answers to get them better individually, right? And the answers in order to ultimately win football games, right? And so John Harbaugh looks at it. So you don't want to necessarily pigeonhole him, and you brought up the examples where you don't necessarily pigeonhole him and say, well, he's a CEO or he's a player's coach or this or that. I think you've heard the reports down in Baltimore, the great connectivity that he has with his players individually, right? And you need that as a coach, right? You can't be in the ivory tower, right? No. You're asking guys to go out there and lay their bodies on the line. We know how physical playing football is each and every week. But with all that being said, there is an understanding of what it takes to be a part of this team and what you're going to need to commit to week in and week out, and how you need to be studious, and how you need to go out there and be fired up about, as he talked about, being in the weight room, and it's going to be lift day or it's going to be leg day, whatever it might be, and you've got to do it and you have to continue to go out there and stack those days.
Yep.
If you continue to stack those days, ultimately that leads to wins during the course of the NFL season. So, I don't want to necessarily pigeonhole him, say he's going to be a CEO. I think there's a great confidence that whoever makes up this staff, given his experience in the NFL, that he's not going to have to coach the coaches. That's something you don't want to do. You see inexperienced head coaches who are coordinators bring in and don't have necessarily success, where they don't bring in a great staff. I don't think that's going to be the case here with the New York Giants. Whoever makes up that staff, it's going to be embarking the vision of John Harbaugh moving forward. I think there's a great excitement, and I think he's learned and adjusted, just as Tom Coughlin learned and adjusted here with the New York Giants. He's learned and adjusted over his 18 years and brings all of that experience here to New York.
Pearson, why don't you catch us up on what's on the huddle this week? I know John put a bunch of things up on the website before he went on his road trip.
Yeah, so we had draft season go up yesterday, and It's a Shrine Bowl preview with Eric Galko, who basically runs the Shrine Bowl, if I'm correct.
Yes, he does.
And then they do a college football championship review. And then today we have and I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Qadry Ismail.
Yeah.
The Q.
Yeah.
The Q.
Yeah.
So he talks about what it's like working under John Harbaugh with the players.
Yes.
His interactions with players. It's a really good interview. So check that out, too.
Good stuff. And, of course, John will probably be filing some huddles from the road trip.
We went over this.
Will we not?
Yeah, we'll have a lot on Monday.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Now, Pearson, we went over this last week. You do not know who Qadry Ismail's brother is, right?
I do not.
Rocket Ismail won a Heisman Trophy with Notre Dame.
So Missile and Rocket?
Yes.
Nice.
I'm shocked you don't know him.
I know. I
More people know Rocket than they do the Q.
Yes.
I was never a big college football guy, so I don't know if that...
And by the way, no disrespect to the Q, because he had a couple of real nice seasons in Baltimore.
He did. He just didn't have... Rocket Ismail at Notre Dame had those legendary moments.
And carved out some pretty nice highlights with the Raiders,
oh,
too.
No doubt. Yeah, question. But, he built himself up. What he did at Notre Dame was just ridiculous.
Was that the Orange Bowl when he took that kickoff back for the touchdown?
I believe it was, yes. But he had that big return. Was it against Michigan, I believe it was, that he had that? Or am I missing... It might have been the Orange Bowl. I think he did have that big return. It was crazy. He was an unbelievable college player.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. The genes certainly were well worth it in the Ishmael family. Quickly, we did get a coaching hiring yesterday, did we not?
We did.
Minter, James Minter, going to the
Jesse Minter.
Jesse Minter. I knew it was a J.
Yes, you got it.
Goes to the Chargers.
All good.
So as Pearson was putting the list together this morning, we were trying to figure out, did anybody get hired in the last 5 minutes before we started the show? We still have the Bills, Steelers, Browns, Raiders, and Cardinals with vacancies.
Yes. And you think about the Charger. I saw a report this morning that Mike McDaniel's interviewing with the Buffalo Bills. I also saw a report that Phillip Rivers is interviewing with the Buffalo Bills, and that Josh Allen is heavily involved in all the interviews here. As you saw the news that came out yesterday, and the Bills announced that Brian Daboll, the former Giant head coach, had completed his interview up there in Buffalo to become their new head coach. So interesting hiring cycle. John's brother Jim, if McDaniel does not end up there as the offensive coordinator, he's got big changes to that staff for the Los Angeles Chargers, as they moved on from Greg Roman after the season, so they're looking for a new offensive coordinator. Reportedly, it could be Mike McDaniel if he doesn't end up as a head coach in the NFL, and now they have to replace their defensive coordinator, as he's now the new head coach reportedly of the Baltimore Ravens.
And I think it's interesting that McDermott gets fired by Buffalo, and look, I personally believe his resume as a head coach is very strong.
No doubt.
And one of these vacancies would be really a good spot for him. But if not, remember, D.C. with the Carolina Panthers at one point. The only thing I'm saying, folks, is that there are some quality football people out there. And I am sure that phones are going to be ringing. Now, where the coaching carousel finally stops and who has a chair and who doesn't at the end of this thing is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. The Philadelphia Eagles still looking for an offensive coordinator.
Yes.
And you mentioned, in terms of McDermott, I saw that Bills fans have filed a petition or signed a petition.
Yes,
I think
did.
We hit the airwaves today, Paul. I think it was up to like 40 or 45,000 Bills fans trying to bring him back as head coach. So, it was an interesting presser, I'll put it that, when the Bills owner and general manager, now president, met with the media a couple of days ago. But we'll see exactly where Buffalo goes, because now it's not a matter of just making the playoffs. Now it's a matter of trying to get back to the Super Bowl for Buffalo and win it. Who's the head coach that's going to take them there? We'll all find out together.
Now, Moose, I'm going to tell you, if you didn't know, I'm a huge Davis Webb guy.
Oh, yes.
I love Davis when he was with the Giants.
I didn't know you were that big of a Webb fan.
I was so big on Davis Webb. When the Giants drafted him, I actually thought he was going to be potentially not a franchise quarterback, but a good quarterback who could succeed Eli.
Cal Golden Bear.
Now, yes, indeed. Well, before that, Texas Tech.
Yes.
Now, the problem was, of course, from the Giants, he had a number one first-round draft pick in front of him. He had one in front of him when he was with the Jets. In Darnold.
Yeah.
Then he goes to Buffalo, and he's got Josh Allen in front of him. So he never got a chance.
No room at the end.
He got to play one NFL game. Well, two, actually. He got to hand off a ball against the Jets when he was with the Bills, but he got to start one NFL game with the Giants in a season finale in Philadelphia. Played well. Point is, we never got to see how good Davis Webb could have been as a quarterback, but here's what I know. From every person that I have ever known in this business, including my own personal feelings about Davis Webb, he's going to be one awesome coach. And his pop taught him from the very beginning when he was in the cradle about the game of football. What's interesting to me is that right now, as the assistant head coach and quarterbacks coach of the Denver Broncos under Sean Payton, which, by the way, was a great move for him to start his coaching career, we would both agree, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's interesting to me is that supposedly he's on the waiting list to talk to teams, two teams, as a matter of fact, not just one, but two, about a head coach opening. I wonder if that's not a little bit premature of him, but I also wonder if the Buffalo Bills wouldn't want to try to bring him back.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I mean, that would be a perfect landing spot. I mean, it really would be. And if you are a experienced coach or an inexperienced head coach in the National Football League, Paul, you want to put yourself in a spot where you have a quarterback, because if you don't have a quarterback, it's the most important position in the National Football League.
It's a problem.
I would think that there's a lot of people looking at the Buffalo Bills and saying to themselves that, I think I could coach and I think I could win with Josh Allen. And it wasn't a matter of that Sean McDermott couldn't. It was just a case of, I think in the end, they felt like they needed to bring somebody in to get that team over the hump after all the brutal losses they had in the playoffs. Paul, I want to ask you one question, because Roberto brought it up and couldn't ask you at the time. What was the suit you were wearing that he called you out on post-game for a Giant game this year? What suit were you?
I'm not sure. It was probably just the straight navy with a red tie.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. No, he was complimentary.
Oh, he was complimentary.
Yeah. He called me out for being in style.
And you
that's
always.
Okay.
The Harbaugh presser, he had a nice turtleneck. Nice white turtleneck the other day. You looked good. Looked sharp. The loafers was it a white turtleneck?
No, it wasn't a white turtleneck. It was no white turtleneck.
Did you have a white shirt and a red tie?
I did have a white shirt and a red tie.
You look good. You always look good.
Well,
You're the Dapper Don.
I do like to go navy with the red tie. It's
always a staple. No doubt. It's Giant football.
No, but the reason I brought up the Davis Webb thing, I don't want to lose this. The reason I brought it up.
I got you.
Could you imagine?
I'm sorry, I got you sidetracked.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Could you imagine if he gets a call from the Bills and he winds up being Josh Allen's head coach after being his backup quarterback just a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I have a hard. Yeah, it would be crazy. I mean, that would be.
Funny.
I mean, it would be funny. It'd be crazy. I think Bills fans would probably be tearing their hair out and saying to themselves, "This is the avenue that we're going to go down." After we went through that presser the other day, and he got rid of a coach, and Sean McDermott. I think it's got to be more of an answer up there in Buffalo. I do. Don't you? I mean, when you think about it.
Yeah, I do too.
I mean, don't you think you have to bring in somebody, if you're looking to bring in somebody to put that team over the top, right? Think about, like, for example, whether you liked it or not, right? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers got rid of Tony Dungy. They brought in John Gruden. Gruden got him over the top. right? You look at, Andy Reid was let go in Philadelphia, had all that success and has had all the success with the Kansas City Chiefs, who, by the way, under the radar, Nagy no longer their offensive coordinator. He was interviewing for head coaching jobs. They brought back Eric Bieniemy to be the offensive coordinator in Kansas City going into next year. We'll find out about the health of Patrick Mahomes' knee. I think it's got to be more of an answer up there in Buffalo than bringing in a guy. I'm not telling you that Davis Webb can't. And you have glowing reports, and he's done an unbelievable job as a coach, and he's been out there in Denver with Sean Payton. I just think for Buffalo, that'd be a very difficult sell.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be funny.
It'd be great. I mean, it'd be right. We got rid of McDermott, who's won like 98 games in the regular season. Here's Davis Webb.
You know what does stink? You got these 5 teams looking for a head coach, and John Gruden is basically disqualified. What a shame.
Yeah.
What a shame, because he knows how to get it done.
Right, and he does. I think if he's ever to get another head coaching job in the NFL, the lawsuit's got to come to an end.
Yeah, that's for sure. Ryan Runn, just finally, before we close our program, he wants to know if it was the Eisenhower era when I got my license. It does seem like that, doesn't it?
Well,
they crack.
You're not that old.
But they crack old jokes that get me all the time. It's okay.
You look great, Paul.
I appreciate it.
You do. You don't ever age. You're like Patino.
Wow.
You're not as old as Patino. I'm not saying you're old.
No, I'm not.
Rick looks like he did 20 years ago.
Do you know how many
out at
people,
the Derby, first Saturday in May?
People who don't know how to spell my name think I'm related to him.
Do they really?
Yes, they do. It's nuts.
Oh, wow.
Anyway.
Right. Patino, Dottino.
Yeah.
Right, I got it. I picked up on that. Sometimes I'm a little slow to the draw.
And Ryan also says with the state of other teams, the division is up for grabs. I think we both think the division's a little more wide open than it has been.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, with the state of unrest down in Philadelphia, when you're looking at, and they're in search for the new offensive coordinator, and obviously they've got some chemistry issues down there. Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys can't get out of their own way. And this is going to be a fascinating offseason when you're looking at Washington. Kingsbury's out as offensive coordinator. They've got a new OC stepping in down there. Obviously, they're looking for Jaden Daniels to stay healthy, but that was a really, really old roster when you're looking at the Washington Commanders, and they need an input of youth and energy into that team in that building.
Most appreciate it.
Paul, absolutely.
A lot of fun.
Crack out the pickle juice. Think about this. When we're getting about 2 feet of snow Sunday night into Monday, Paul Dottino's going to be somewhere in Jersey with jars of pickle juice on his sidewalk and putting it down there to de-ice everything. Think about that for a second.
You know the beauty of pickle juice? the brine does not eat away the cement.
Oh, there you go.
So you ever walk on somebody's sidewalk and you see all those little holes, those little prickly bumps, looks like an English muffin?
Yes.
No. That doesn't happen with pickle juice.
Yeah, I never knew. I never knew. I love you, Paul. You know that. I'm just busting your chops. You're the best.
That'll do it for Friday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. And we have come to you from the Giants podcast studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Keep staying warm, folks. Yeah. And again, if you got some extra pickle juice, throw it out on your sidewalk. It'll help. We'll see you next time, everybody.